So in this video I had planned to compare the Ace 23 with the M416 as an assault rifle as part of my new Weapons Versus series. But it dawned on me that the M416 isn't as good as something like the AK-5C. Now the Ace 23 and the AK-5C for me are the best two fully automatic weapons in the game. They are the ones that I use the most often, and I think the attributes that they have are much better than most of the other fully automatic weapons out there. Having said that, in Battlefield 4 the weapon balance is extremely good and you do have to pay attention, but you still can pick out those weapons that are just superior in pretty much every way to all the other guns in the game. Now, in Battlefield 4, I don't think it will come as much as a surprise to you when I say that the Assault class is the most played class in the game. It's just a fact, and the stats are there to be backed up by it. And I think that that translates across to the weapons that you have available in that class. They are ultimately the most powerful out of any other class of weapons. Coming in at a close second is the Carbines, and I think that you can find the hidden gem in there, which for me was the AK-5C. I think it's the Carbine that you unlock to start with, which is kind of like the M16A3 from Battlefield 3, where it was available to you straight away, and I fell in love with it instantly. I've learnt how to play with it, and it has its best attributes. It's not great at everything, but I still think as an all-rounder, this thing is a really good piece of kit. The first thing you'll notice is its rate of fire, 700 rounds a minute. It's very, very manageable. And then it's got a bullet speed of 630 meters a second, so you're chugging along with that thing at 700 rounds a minute. And then you've got 630 meters a second. This thing's like a laser. It can hit targets really far away, really quickly. Another really good thing that ties in with those two stats is the vertical recoil. It's 0.32, which is sort of in the medium range, sort of starting to climb up a little bit. But it doesn't actually feel like that's the recoil vertically when you're firing the weapon in fully auto. It just doesn't feel that way. As I said, it feels like a laser when you're firing it, and because the bullets get there so quickly anyway, it doesn't make a huge amount of difference of how much recoil there is, well, for me at least, because if you're good at aiming at a target at medium to long range, regardless of how much recoil the weapon's actually got, you're going to hit your target 9 times out of 10. So even though it does have a sort of a medium vertical recoil, for me it doesn't make a massive amount of difference. And the icing on the cake for the AK-5C is its short reload time of 1.85 seconds. That is on par with the M16 that's available in the Assault class, and we know how fast that thing reloads. Which means that you can get the drop on the enemy much quicker. That half a second that it's taken you less to reload your weapon means you can get out the door, back round the corner, and get the drop on your enemy. Oh, and one final thing. It looks like an absolute tank. The thing's really heavy and really thick and chunky. And if it's going to be the God gun, then it's going to need to look like one. And I think this thing absolutely packs a punch in a small package. And it really does fit the God gun role. For me, it's one of the easiest weapons to use. It's so easy to get kills with it. And it just feels like a versatile weapon that you could be using at pretty much any range. And you know that you can be confident in winning the gunfight every single time. Moving across to the Ace 23, now I don't need to do a huge amount of explaining as to why this weapon is used so much. First of all, in games you'll see people complaining in the chat how so many people are using the Ace 23 that they're getting really annoyed and they're going to quit the game. Second of all, then you have the person who's using the Ace 23 going, haha, scrub, use a good weapon then. We just know that this thing is the best assault rifle by far. They make you go a little bit of a way to actually unlock it. It does require an assignment to actually unlock the weapon, but the assignment's so easy that it doesn't really make a difference, and you could do it without even trying or not even knowing the assignment actually existed, because it just requires you basically to play the game, and that's it, and you unlock this weapon. So first of all, you're looking at a 770 rounds per minute rate of fire, which in itself is quite high and can become slightly unmanageable at times, but at close to medium range you're going to hit every single shot, and because you're firing so fast you're going to drop the guy very quickly. With a bullet speed of 620 meters a second, you can hit people at long range with this thing because it goes so fast so quickly, which means that if you are looking to fire at long range, it is a viable weapon to use, but there are weapons that can do better at longer ranges rather than this. I'd say it's really good at close to medium range, which is what you're going to be using an assault rifle for anyway. The recoil again is very manageable with a 0.36 pull up and a 0.25 pull to the right and a 0.15 pull to the left. So this thing pulls up and right, which you do have to watch out for at those longer ranges. But as I said, with that kind of statistic at close range and medium range, where this thing absolutely excels and gets used most of all, it virtually makes no difference. The only thing that slightly puts me down about the Ace-23 is its long reload time of 3.1 seconds, which is quite extensive, which means if you're like me and you reload very, very often after every single kill most of the time, as long as there's no one else in front of me, then that's fine because you're only using the short reload of 2.1 seconds. But moving to the 3.1, you're going to get the jump sometimes and the enemies are going to come around the corner and you're going to have absolutely nothing you can do about it, which is a shame because this weapon is really good and really versatile, but that's the only thing I think that lets it down. In terms of what attachments that you can use to make this weapon better than it currently is, I say no, go for minimal. Make sure you're using a red dot sight or at least only a sort of a 2 times or 1.5 times magnification. You don't really need much more than that because, as I say, you're going to be using this thing at medium range just to rip through people. For the barrel attachment, I've actually found just to leave it as it is better because if you had a heavy barrel, you're going to get a lot more recoil at longer range. It just means that you're able to fire further with it and you get a higher bullet velocity. Using a suppressor doesn't actually change much because all it does is reduce the bullet velocity. It doesn't actually change the recoil of the weapon all that much. And it actually pretty much looks exactly the same as if you're not using a barrel at all. So I just say just stick with the normal barrel on this weapon. And pretty much any of the foregrips that you have available unlocked for the Ace-23 are going to benefit you and the weapon in some way. Now I tend to use the stubby grip, which gives me a 15% accuracy bonus during automatic fire, which is what I'm using it for most of the time, which gives me 15% more chance of actually hitting the target that I'm aiming at and therefore getting me more kills. You could of course use the angled foregrip, which would give you a bonus on the first shot recoil multiplier, which is 2 times on the Ace-23, so it does kick up a little bit when you start firing. So if you're having trouble controlling the recoil when you start firing, that's the best one to be using. And even if you use something like the vertical grip, which gives you a hip fire accuracy bonus of 50%, the Ace-23 is really good at hip fire, and especially on maps like Operation Locker that you've been seeing in the background, it's a really good grip to be using. But we come down to the ultimate question. What is the God Gun for Battlefield 4? Well, I'm going to have to side with the Ace-23 here, simply because I've used it more and I'm more comfortable with it. The AK-5C is still a really good weapon and is a very close second, but the Ace-23 for me is really comfortable with that nice rate of fire, relatively low recoil, you can rip through people with it. But what I really want to know is if you guys have a different opinion to me, make sure you leave it down in the comments below. We've been having some really good debates down there recently, so let's try and carry that on with this video. But anyway, that is the video's end today, guys, so if you did enjoy it, please do hit that like button, and as I said, comments are always appreciated. But until next time, my name is Westy, and I'll catch you guys in the next video.